Hi, welcome back to season 4 of the Tummy Team Journey. I am Kelly Dean, physical therapist and founder of the Tummy Team, and I'm your host. This is the podcast where we talk about how investing in your functional core and pelvic floor strength can actually change your life. So let's get started. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Tummy Team Journey podcast. It's Kelly Dean. I am your host and the founder of the Tummy Team. And I am here with one of our online clients, Rosemary. Rosemary's from Northern California, and she has a unique story to share. And I think it's going to be really encouraging to all of you. So I wanted to just welcome Rosemary to the podcast. Hi, how are
Thank
you doing?
you. Doing great. I'm thrilled to be here. You've been a real inspiration for me. So thank you for having me.
Oh, an inspiration. I love that. Um, Well, why don't we just start with you sharing a little bit about yourself? Tell us just about yourself, maybe your history a little bit, and then if you want to share like how you heard about the Tummy Team or why you decided to start working with us, that'd be great.
Okay. Well, I'm a wife and a mom of 5 kids. My kids are 10. Well, wait a minute. They just had birthdays 11, 9, 5, 5, and 3.
Twins.
And yeah, I had some twins, and I homeschool the 4 oldest. And um, yeah, we live in Northern California, which is generally where I grew up. Um, I'm trying to think of where I heard about the tummy team. I think it was from Beth Learn at Fit to Be. My
Yeah.
sister had recommended, I'd asked my sister for recommendations of postpartum fitness options. She told me about Fit to Be, and then from them, I learned about you guys.
Yeah.
And I actually did, after my second was born, I did take core foundations and it
Okay.
was great, except I found out midway into it that I was pregnant. And so then I ended up, I mean, I finished the course, but then I went right into pregnancy and it was pregnancy with twins. So I
That
finished up my,
happens. That happens so often that people start core foundations and get pregnant. That at our clinic, it was like a joke that it was a fertility program.
well, that's a good one. It was very good for me, even during pregnancy. So that was my first exposure. And but then after having the twins and then my last baby, I had some leaking. I had a not very big but still present diastasis, and I also had a pain in my side. The only way I can describe it is it felt like it pulled a muscle underneath my rib, and it
Okay.
really hurt. It hurt like a sharp knife pain. Whenever I laid on my left side, I could feel it. I mean, on my right side, I could feel it on my left side. And I just felt weak in my core. And I felt like I want to be, I want to be strong. I want to run and play with my kids. I want to be able to chase them. I want to be able to jump rope with them. So I had weaned my youngest. I was losing weight. I lost about 30 pounds intentionally in the course of this year, of the year after weaning my youngest. And I was feeling really, really good. And I saw the Black Friday sale of that was at the time you were doing a bundle rather than a membership program. And my wonderful husband got me that for Christmas slash anniversary. Our anniversary is actually it's next week. We'll be married 12 years. So it was for my 11th anniversary. And during the course of that weight loss, um, one of my breasts got flat and the other breast didn't. And I began to notice a lump. And I had been told years ago that I had fibrocystic breasts. So I thought, oh, this is nothing. And as I continued to lose weight and the lump did not get smaller, it seemed bigger, I thought, oh, and I put it off for months. And I finally decided, this is not nothing. I need to go get it checked. And so a week after I signed up for this bundle, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And that was the biggest shock of my life, even bigger than having twins. And I, because I felt so good, I felt
Okay.
strong and healthy. And it was just because of the lump that I went and got that checked, and it turned out to be breast cancer. And so I got the diagnosis just before Christmas, and then January 11th, we had a mastectomy scheduled. And on many levels, it was a difficult time. But I kept thinking, I was just about to get strong again. I was just about to do these courses and get strong again and run and play with my kids. And I was so disappointed. But then I thought, I think I'm going to do them anyway. And so I started the grief recovery course in January in preparation for my mastectomy because I was definitely needing that kind of very gentle, but very like grief connected with my body. It's a visceral processing of it. And
Yes.
so that's what I started with. Did that first.
So
After,
tell me a little bit about, so a lot of times people have no idea about how grief can be stored in your body and how you had this traumatic situation. You were in the midst of a traumatic situation and there's grieving. And when you saw that in the bundle, did you okay, so you possibly saw that in the bundle before you even knew you were diagnosed with this,
yes.
right? Was that something you were gonna consider even doing that course prior to that?
No, because I
No.
didn't need it. I thought I don't need that. I mean, there's a prenatal course in there, and I didn't need that. And
Right.
there was a like preparation for surgery, and I didn't need that.
Yeah.
But I did want the other, like the core foundations and the core smart fitness. I wanted those.
Yeah.
And so I thought, it doesn't hurt to have those other things in the bundle. But then it turned out that I did need them.
Yeah. So you
Uh,
started with the grief one, and what, uh, what was that like for you? What did you learn in that that you weren't expecting maybe? It's hard to look.
um, I what it felt was that in that initial diagnosis, the shock of an initial diagnosis, I felt like I couldn't do anything. There was nothing I could do about this. I mean, I didn't even, 3 weeks later, I was going to have a mastectomy. I didn't want to lose a breast. I didn't want this, and yet there was nothing I could do about it. And so I felt very helpless. And I've always been a person who has a really strong sense of agency. Like it's not that I'm in control of every situation, but I know that I can do things, and I plan them and I do them, and they make my life better. And here I was in a situation where there's nothing I could do about it. I didn't know anything about it. We didn't even know. They gave us the diagnosis and said, but we'll know more when we open you up. They didn't even know for sure what stage I was actually at. And so I felt very helpless. And taking the grief recovery course, it I I guess what I learned from it is that I could keep moving.
Mhm.
Even if I didn't know anything about cancer, I could still move my body
It's empowering.
and I could still breathe. And so it gave me something that I could do. I could not have wrapped my mind around even the exercises required for core preparations for surgery, but I could grieve and I could move.
Yeah.
And so that's
And
what
you
I
can
learned.
stay grounded and connected, and a lot of it is there's so much out of our control. What can I control in this moment? And how can I choose to, at any whatever stage you're at, how can I choose to connect and stay present in my own body?
Mhm.
Um, One of the things that I say in several different parts of my program is that we tend to be a negative feedback system. We respond to negative things. We respond to pain. We respond to leakage. We respond to all of the negative things, right? But we sometimes neglect to respond to the things that we are capable of, the things that we can do, the things that are working. And I think that what I try to do in that grief recovery program is to let's zone in on what is working and let's nurture instead of punishing our body for the places that feel broken or feel like they've betrayed us or feel like they're failing us. Instead of looking at those negatively, look at how can we take the strength that we have and come around and nurture those parts that are struggling and support our body through that. Looking at our body and our being as partnership. It's the only car you get to drive your own life. This body is the only one we get, right? And how can we support it the best we can and move into like and almost like if you were to nurture your kids, right? If they fall down and hurt themselves, we don't like walk away and say, "Well, when you get it together, we're going to come back." We hopefully, right? we go in and we scoop them up and we pull them in and we soothe them and we nurture them and we stroke their back and we breathe with them and we calm them down and really thinking how can we take those nurturing components that you have ingrained in you as a mom and put that into your body to help you through this process and give you something that you can control and you can do. So what a blessing that that was just like this secret present in that program in that bundle that you didn't know you were going to need, but it was right
No.
when you needed it.
Yeah, because I definitely felt all those things, and it wasn't even, to me, it didn't feel like trying to get stronger. It just felt like I have to do something, I have to move, and I have to breathe. And it
Yeah,
was just that, well, as much as I could handle. So I was very
perfect.
grateful. It's not
Yeah.
very long. It was
Nope.
exactly the right amount for
Yep.
me.
Good. Yeah, and
So
it's not long, but it could be stretched out if you need it to be.
yeah,
People can take more time with it if they need to be.
yeah,
It's very, easy to individualize even though it's a video program?
yeah, mhm,
Yeah.
yeah.
Alright, what was the next step?
So then following my mastectomy is when I took the preparations for surgery. And I might seem a little backwards, but that's when I could handle it.
Yeah,
And part of that is because a mastectomy is a major surgery, and it is not down around my belly button, but it does affect the muscles of my core. I
yeah,
had no idea that the weight of my breast and the motion of my breast is affected by and affects the muscles of my back and my core. And so, with that change, I was getting sore in weird places because my body didn't know how to move. And it
yeah.
helped when I got a prosthetic. But having the core preparations for surgery was, I did that while in those first few weeks of recovery after mastectomy and strengthening my core and focusing on my breathing. Um, Actually worked out really well to be a good part of, and doing the releases, the upper body releases of neck and shoulders and arms, all of those I needed to stretch. And so once again, I would not have thought that to be relevant, but it was actually perfect. And the stretches, the breathing exercises, I had a recovering surgery site right there. So it was perfect.
And the posture. Our breast
Posture.
tissue
Mhm.
is so impacted by our posture, and our posture is impacted by our breast tissue,
Yeah.
and when you have that surgery, um, it does impact postural muscles, but it also impacts, like there's this kind of protective posturing we do,
Yes.
right? That we kinda round ourselves in a fetal position around our wounded area, and, while that feels protective, it actually is detrimental to the body mechanics of how you need to function in life, and it
Yes.
creates more pain. So, being able to get yourself taller and open up and with an area that you want to round around,
Mhm.
feels very counterintuitive, but to have a rehab approach to it instead of a fitness approach to it it feels very safe to
Yes.
kind of like how you can move to that next step.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was the initial, just very fresh recovery. The next one that I did was core foundations, which I had done before, so it was a refresher. But it was at that time I was preparing for chemotherapy, and so I core foundations took me part of the way into chemotherapy, and chemotherapy is a difficult thing. At the same time, I was also using the fasting mimicking diet. It's a form of intermittent fasting to
Mhm.
reduce um, chemo side effects. But it was a very demanding time. I needed to keep moving, but I couldn't handle very much. I was really grateful that the structure was so clear. I could just do the next thing,
Yeah.
and I could even do it much of it when I was lying in bed or sitting.
Yeah.
And I did incorporate walking because that's good for you, but also because that's part of what helps the chemo drugs move through your system. Um, but yeah, that was a good refresher at a time when I couldn't have handled a lot of new information. So that's how
Yeah,
far that one took me.
it actually, I mean, so good for you that you had done it before. So
Yes.
there are a lot of people that do core foundation more than once,
Mhm.
and they'll say, "I got completely different information out of it the next
Yeah.
time,"
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, so it's good that there was some familiar, but
Mhm.
then because you're a different person than the first time you took it, and because I update things as we go, um, it does feel fresh, but there is a structure to it, and it's
Mhm.
not too much. It
No.
it's just enough, and that little bit is effective. I always tell people simple does not mean ineffective, you
Mhm.
know? The right things for the right
Yeah.
reason, get you the right
Yeah.
results.
And a lot of people experience, as I've heard, experience muscle wasting during chemo because they can't find their way to being active. And I feel like having that course to do, I wasn't very extremely active, but I didn't come out of it weaker in my core than I started.
Yeah,
So I came out of it. Let's see, by that point, I was like halfway through chemo. Yeah. So I was experiencing a stronger core despite being halfway through chemo. So the new thing for me at that point was to do floor of your core.
mm,
And um, and I remember doing some of the stretches in floor of your core where you're lying down on your back with your feet up the wall, and it is very vulnerable. And for me, that would it almost there was some like it came back to some of that grief recovery and realizing how vulnerable um, our bodies can be, but being able to go to that vulnerable place for me helped me to continue my healing because part of what I had was um, with my second child, he was 913 and he had a shoulder dystocia. And um, by the time I got done with that, I had terrible, terrible hemorrhoids, which recurred with my twins and um, my last baby. And and then to add insult to injury, one of the side effects of chemo drugs is really bad constipation, like
yeah.
terrible, severe constipation. I had no idea. I didn't read that about in any of the literature to prepare for it. It was so demoralizing and uncomfortable, and it reactivated my hemorrhoids. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
One of those things that we don't talk about, but was very real for me. Anybody who has hemorrhoids, you need to talk about this.
It is. I've struggled with it myself because of, my second birth was a really long pushing phase. It and it people don't talk about how, because it's embarrassing, right? But they don't talk about how life impacting it is. Um,
Yes.
and it's a pelvic floor issue.
Yes.
Um, it's a pelvic floor issue, and it's a perpetuating issue if you don't understand that it's a pelvic floor issue. or
Mhm.
it's a component of a pelvic floor. I mean, obviously, you had something else contributing to it. Um, but in Floor of Your Core, we talk specifically about constipation
Yes.
and strategies for constipation because constipation and prolapse, pelvic organ prolapse, are side by side. Constipation and for men, prostate issues are side by side. Um, and constipation is something that a lot of people deal with because of dietary, because of mobility issues, because of disconnect with their core. There's all kinds of pieces to it. So, was that helpful for you?
Very helpful. I had taken core foundations and got in a squatty potty the first time around, but I didn't really use it. I'll be honest. But boy, do I use it now every single time. And so, along with, I mean, we had to work with my meds as well as there were some times that I had to take suppositories and enemas, and it was so uncomfortable. But learning and practicing good potty posture, using the potty, and also learning like the rhythm of my body, learning that when I felt the urge to go at that point and not try to wait, um, learning to, there were some, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like myofascial release where I'm lying on my back and my
Yeah.
hands are under my sacrum
Mhm.
and sometimes flat and sometimes rounded. And I was doing pressure point release along the different lines of my pelvis.
Mhm.
And I feel like that was a major help in healing those hemorrhoids, in releasing and learning not to aggravate them anymore. Anyway, I don't struggle with them anymore. And
Well,
I think that was important.
to speak to that, and nobody's ever brought that up. Um, and so there's a lot of things I do in the course that have a lot of connecting points. And I feel intuitively that I know that this needs to happen, but I don't always connect the dots until after the fact how that impacted this thing. But this is one of the things about hemorrhoids is that when you feel like you're going to have hemorrhoids or you feel that tension, there's a clenching that we do in our pelvic floor muscles, trying to not have it happen. And that clenching makes them worse. That clenching puts pressure in the wrong direction, and it actually makes it worse, and it's so counterintuitive to relax the pelvic floor muscles and the rectal muscles, and to relax the tension all up and down the sacrum so that things can balance out and then actually muscles like things go right actually back up. The same thing happens in pelvic floor prolapse, pelvic organ prolapse. When people are clenching down there, it actually creates, I can't even explain it, but it's kind of almost like a vacuum where things push in the, it's counterintuitive. It doesn't work the way we think it's going to. It
Mhm.
actually makes things worse. That's why hypertonic pelvic floors are actually connected, tight pelvic floors are actually connected to that prolapse and to the hemorrhoids. So it is that releasing and relaxing that fixes it. And it feels like that's not the way it's supposed to work, but it does. So that those releases and the breath work and relaxing actually improves. Did you also, we teach you this abdominal massage stuff and
Yeah.
the finger walk and stuff. Did you find that that gave you any kind of relief?
The finger walk, not so much, but I will say I started with the abdominal massage. That was something I had tried the first time around core foundations and gotten out of the habit of. I started back with the grief recovery routine is when I started doing my abdominal massage again, and now has been since last January. It's something I do every day after I take my shower in the evening, and I have some of the tummy toning balm, and the
Yeah,
smell and just the feel of it. It's part of my it definitely makes me happy, but it also feels very good. And I feel like that was a good thing as part
yeah,
of my healing. So
yeah.
it's after getting out of the shower, I put that on and spend some time with some abdominal massage. And you also mentioned, oh, pelvic organ prolapse. I forgot to mention that I had a cystocele and a rectocele after my 5 births. They were not extreme, but they were definitely present. And
Mhm.
so that was, and that I think was part of the leaking also that I had. So floor of your core was a lot of new information for me. I didn't realize. I'm sure you can go even more in depth on it, but I had no idea how much more there was to learn about the floor of my core, and I don't leak anymore. And I'm sure that it's the buildup of the belly breaths, the Kegels done correctly. I did not realize correct Kegel form. I also, this is something I didn't realize. My life previously was not set up very well for me to take care of my body, including to take 30 seconds after using the toilet to do a belly breath and a Kegel.
Mhm.
And part of that is just the nature of having little children. They don't care and they are not going to wait another 30 seconds. but but I realized I didn't have time to breathe and relax in order to not irritate the hemorrhoids. And I didn't make time to breathe and relax in order to not irritate the pelvic floor prolapse, you know? Um, so,
And it's not about hundreds and hundreds, it's about that
no,
slowing down and connecting, and that's
yes,
what I want people to understand about Kegels is not like thousands and thousands of squeezes because that is not actually the function of the pelvic floor. It's about knowing how to turn on, turn off, and be connected to the muscles in that kind of lighter, not tighter feeling, right?
yeah,
And people they're either too tight or it's dead to me down there, right? There's nothing in the middle. And that's yeah, that's such an important part. And I like how you said there was so much in floor of your core. One of the reasons that are even when people come to us just with pelvic floor stuff, we encourage them to start with core foundations, is core foundations sets the tone, gives you all the basics, and resolves a lot of people's pelvic floor issues before going into the emotional and the intensity of floor of your core. And
mhm,
it's a better starting point and it resolves a lot of things. And then once they have that foundation, they can go deeper, but starting right with floor of your core can just be like it's like drinking out of a fire hose. It's just too much information without the foundational stuff. Um, but once you've got that foundational stuff, it's like, okay, I can take this now. I can go there. Yeah.
definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So, okay, so by that point, I had finished my 5 months of chemo and I was bald. You can see my hair's growing back now, but I was bald at that point. And I did not feel like totally wiped out. Part of it was the fasting that I was doing, and part of it was the exercise that I had been doing. Not terribly vigorous, but every single day.
Yeah.
And so I had some good tone to my core, and I had better posture habits in so many ways. And I had this habit of stretching every single day. I that is now for me that is non-negotiable. I have to do it. I notice if I don't do it for a couple of days, and I didn't have any idea of that before taking the time to build that kind of habit. So the stretching and the releases were almost, I would say, more impactful to me. I know that it all starts with the breath, and the belly breaths are the foundation of it, but the stretching was newer to me than the belly breaths.
Yeah, I hear that all the time, and I also feel that way, especially once you get the connection. I believe the daily stretches are what helps it be sustainable.
Yes.
Because life puts us in positions that shorten the same muscles over and over again, and if we don't try to swim upstream a little bit, we're over the waterfall. Like we have to just the nature of our world as parents and in a technology driven world, we sit a lot, we bend over a lot, we look down a lot, and we have to do the reverse to get ourselves upright against, gravity.
Mhm.
And once we get in the right alignment, our body now, your core should hold you up. Once it's been rehabbed, you don't have to keep rehabbing it. You just need to set the environment for it to do the job in the alignment it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
So people underestimate because the stretches are not they're not hard and they don't take a lot of time, but
Mhm.
it is the consistency that just is we sit every day, so we should actually release the muscles that are sitting every day so we can get back to our baseline.
Mhm.
And and it is creating that habit, creating it's a self-care habit. It takes no time, but you'll know it when you don't do it.
Yes,
Right.
definitely. So at that point, I was through with chemo and I had not yet started. So for me, I did not have to do radiation, but I definitely, oh, then stretches. I mean, I have full range of motion. I can go all the way over. Um, and it was
That's
the stretching that got me there. And the scar massage,
yes.
I didn't have an abdominal scar to massage, but I had my mastectomy scar to massage. And I still have, I know that the massage is supposed to help with numbness. I still have
Mhm.
very numb, a large numb area there, but I was told that that's pretty common actually. But I don't have any adhesions and I don't have, sometimes people have, they call it iron bra syndrome after a mastectomy where you get super tight, right where your bra strap would be. I don't have that. And I
Yeah.
credit the stretches as well as the massage, the scar massage. So I
Yes.
used the tummy toning balm for that as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a
Yeah.
good one. But I wanted to didn't have to do radiation, and I was going to start hormone therapy, which is endocrine therapy. It shuts down the kind of cancer that I had feeds on estrogen, and so my hormone therapy consists of two drugs that completely shut down estrogen production in my body. And so threw me into menopause hard and fast right away. But
Dang it.
so I wanted to recover. So Core Smart Fitness was the next thing that I did. And that was perfect. Thank you for working out with me for every day for 10 weeks. And I
Well,
did.
thank you for
Um,
working out with me.
and I had never done much with weights and resistance, but one of the effects of the estrogen suppression is bone density loss. It's just part of what happens. As well as I have a family history of osteoporosis. So I am actually already into osteoporosis at, what am I, 45? So being there already and taking medications that are going to increase it, as well as wanting to be strong, made me very happy to start with bands and resistance training. So I was really glad to see that in there. Again, picking up after chemo left off, life is just really, really busy. And so I really appreciated how clearly everything was laid out that I could just do the next thing.
Yep.
Because I was
Just
not
follow
up for freestyling at this point.
Yep. And the way that Core Smart Fitness is set up is it is set up to start at, like, ground zero for
Yeah, that's where I
anybody.
was. Yeah.
Yeah, and some people are at ground zero, and some people are at ground zero with this type of exercise where they're connected to their breathing, their core, and their pelvic floor, and their alignment. They've never even thought about those things when they're working out, and without that, you're missing like this pivotal piece, right? And so each week I just give you like the next little step, the next little step, the next little step. And if you need to stay at 1 week for a little bit longer, you can, before you go to the next step. But it really transition it's that's why it's called Core Smart Fitness Transition. It's Core Smart. We changed it from like tummy safe to Core Smart because safe kind of invokes a little bit of fear, like we have to be afraid of something. Instead, we just need to be intentional about what we're
Mhm.
doing, be smart, make good choices with the right information, and then it being a transition. So we're getting a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. Um, yeah, it gives you the confidence, right?
Mhm.
So good for you.
So, and at this point, I realized my year for my bundle was almost up, and I had one course left to do, and I was like, ah, I have to do this, because I'm a box checker. I love checking off the boxes and making sure I got it all. So, um, functional core was the last one that I did, and I almost didn't do it, but I'm so glad that I did it, because it So, for instance, another thing that I didn't realize is what a journey this is. And at this point, I had been working on your videos and hearing your principles and seeing your examples for like almost 10 months. And finally realized that I stand asymmetrically. And after all this time of being told, don't clench your buns, I finally realized I generally tuck my pelvis, tuck my tail. And I don't know how it's possible to tuck your tail and thrust your ribs at the same time, but as I'm adjusting this, I do it. I never realized I was so talented, but that's what I do.
Yeah.
And so having in the functional core, having the examples of the common compensations and saying this is on camera seeing this is often how people stand and this is how you can get out of it. Not just stand up straighter, but realizing that I stand kind of to one side and with my tail tucked and my ribs thrust. And I can get out of that by doing some pelvic circles and
Mhm.
then a knee bend and then standing up and like going straight through the top of my head to realign myself or to stop and do a hamstring stretch and then go again, not just say stand up straighter, but go
Push.
into a push myself straight up. And
Mhm.
I just being able to do that when I catch myself out of alignment has helped me get back into alignment so much better.
And
So,
when you do that, when you're in that alignment, there's a even though you have you have a habit of being in one place in it, the habit can be so powerful that sometimes it feels like the right place to be. When people get into that right place, there's like this moment of like, "Oh yeah, that's right."
yes, yes,
Like,
it
"How do
feels
I do
better.
that?" Like,
Yeah.
"This feels right." Like, almost it's like all the tension goes out of your body because you're like, "Ah, that's where I'm supposed to be," you
Mhm.
know? And, I love that. I see it in people's eyes when they do it, like this kind of like aha moment of like, "Ah," and giving you those, simple little strategies and I'm good at I'm good at this, but I've been a physical therapist for long enough that I have mastered how to give you word pictures that you feel in your body. Like
Mhm.
where, you know, through your heel, that kind of shoulder blades in your back pocket, that, that lighter, not tighter, that grounded here. And I think some of those cues for people that don't know like this abstract feeling, it really helps you go, oh yeah, that's the piece I was missing.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it especially helped. I mean those that habit of standing tucked and flared and asymmetrical has been years in the making. But in
Maybe.
addition to it, because of the mastectomy, I find it very easy to have this shoulder kind of roll forward so that my body is now twisted on top of that. And so being able to stop, do a shoulder roll, and
Yeah.
put my shoulder blades down in my back pocket and then breathe that now that I'm there, you know.
Yeah.
And I do that many times a day because because my body is asymmetrical now. And in order for me to function in a symmetrical way, which is how it's designed to function, I have to be very intentional about it. But it is easier to maintain the healthy alignment and the symmetrical posture now that my core and my extremities are stronger. I don't know how
Yeah.
to put that, but I mean it's a spiral. Having better alignment means that my core can be stronger. Having
Yeah.
a stronger core means that I can maintain the better alignment. So
Yep.
anyway, um,
Was in the functional core, the other thing that it's kind of like a catch-all course for all the pieces. Now that you have all the foundation, how do you live this out? Like, what about when I'm gardening? What about when I'm on a road trip? What about when if I want to go back to playing hockey? What if I, like I try to kind of help people pull it into real life situations that are outside of rehab.
Yes.
You're no long you're not in rehab for the rest of your life, right? You're living your life and you want to implement this and integrate this into your life. So, I think about stuff like you're a homeschool mom, you're a homekeeper, you unload dishes and you do laundry and you make beds and you read to your kids and you do all the things, right? And those are all things that require strength. And people just think that strength is something that we do like in an athletic event or when we're working out, but life requires strength. Um, and giving you like practical ways to fit that in to your life does I know I give that in every course that I do, but this is like the download of all downloads in functional core,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Yes. And 2 points that were really important to me in this one. One of them was active walking. Having a bunch of little kids and taking them on walks. I spend a lot of time walking like this.
Yep.
And again, being just sticking up my head, well, now my shoulders still rolled and my back's hunched, but having the tip to not only have my eyes on the horizon, but to have the break down my stride into I don't even know the words for it, but the front part of the stride and then the push
Mhm.
off in the back, and that I'm pushing off and it's pushing out the top of my head. That for me was a really helpful
Mhm.
visual. And now that my kids are a little bit older, I don't have to look at the ground quite so much. and, and I'm able to do more. I mean, I could have done active walking before, but it is easier when they're not quite so short. Um,
Right.
and it's something that I'm working on because we go on walks every day, and so it's something that I practice every day.
Yeah.
And the other part of it is that is at the very end, your very last video was about returning to high impact sports.
Mm.
And I have always had this goal. I would love to be able to jump rope with my kids. I've never been good at it, even when I was a kid, but I would love to be good at jump roping. And I had kind of forgotten about that until I watched this video and I was like, oh, jump rope is a high impact sport. And I want to be able to do it and
Mhm.
without re-injuring my pelvic floor,
Mhm.
and so I have been doing little tiny jump preparations every day, and that's now part of my goal. That's why I jump every day, and I have a mini trampoline. And
Yes.
I'm not yet to the point where I can jump rope with my kids, but I will be, and I know how to
Yes.
get there now.
Because you know how to break a big goal into small pieces and to
Huh?
build it up a little bit over time so you don't injure yourself.
Yeah.
And even going back to Core Smart Fitness, we do some little jumps in there, right? And then even going back to core foundations where you talk about fitness minutes,
Yes.
you know, like and just taking like what is important. I want to get back to jumping, so just a little jump and then going the speed of a jump, yeah. You absolutely are going to be able to do that.
I'm so excited for it. I'm really looking forward to it.
I know it's
So
like
that took me through
simple
the whole
things.
year.
A really really hard year for you.
Yeah.
But you spent it with me and I didn't even know
Yeah.
it.
You were a great companion. And Kelly, some of your catchphrases have really stuck with me. Some of them, what you do the most wins.
Yeah.
That has really stuck with me. Also, don't be all or nothing, or
Yeah.
you'll do a little bit of all and then a lot of nothing. So I'm not doing all or nothing. And even if I miss a workout day, or if I do a very small workout or not as intense as I had imagined, I'm not doing nothing. I'm moving my body. And
Yep.
I can do that. Even
Yep.
when I'm in chemo, even when I'm in surgery recovery, even when I'm in terrible hot flashes, even when constipated, I can do that.
Yeah.
So
You can
that kind of
breathe,
attitude.
you can
Yes.
connect, you can
Yes.
lengthen. Yep, and all those things add up. Every little piece adds up. Yeah,
So
that's
thank
so
you for keeping me company and giving me inspiration. I want to be strong for the life I was meant to live.
yes, and you are, look at you doing it. I'm so proud of you, and this is so, encouraging to me. I love, like, doing these podcasts is one of my absolute favorite things because I am so much online now, and there are so many clients that I don't get to hear their stories, and when I was in the clinic seeing people every day, you hear it every day. But now, my goal is for you to get back to your life. And when you're back at your life, a lot of times you don't have time to like reach out to me and say how this impacted you. So when people take the time to do that, it is so special to me. And it's also, my heart is for people. I know that feeling of feeling weak and feeling helpless and feeling out of control and feeling like my body kind of failed me or betrayed me, and being afraid of knowing what to do and what not to do. And I just want to eliminate that for other people. So when people can connect to your story, they realize they see part of their own journey, whether it's breast cancer or some other situation, right? Um, it's really valuable. So I know it's vulnerable to talk about all this stuff, and I appreciate you doing that.
Thank you.
Um,
The one
what
thing I
is
wanted,
Go ahead.
the one thing I wanted to add was, I wish I had known before I started. In each of your courses, you encourage us to do an assessment, a pre and post assessment, and I didn't do them. And I wish that I had. And part of the reason I didn't do them is I didn't think I would be telling anybody. I didn't think I would be showing anybody. So why bother? But part of the reason that I did it was I had this feels very vulnerable to kind of contemplate. I had this such a sense of loss. Like the body that I had, I will never have again. And the I feel like I have passed a major and irrevocable change in going through cancer. And it was not going to be like just starting a class and then getting better and getting better and getting better and getting better. It's not a linear journey up. For me, it was a descent, and it felt pretty low. And I knew that I was going to be losing a lot of things, my breasts, my hair, my oh God, my toenails, that and more that I didn't know how. And I almost didn't want to watch that kind of loss happening. And it was like if I take a measurement of what my belly is right now, like inches,
Mhm.
many people gain weight after cancer. And
Yeah.
so if I take the measurement now and then I take a bigger measurement later, that's going to be so discouraging. Or if I see how many squats I can do now and then in the middle of chemo I can't do any, it's going to be so discouraging. So I didn't want to look. So that not doing the assessments was my way of not looking.
Yeah.
But
A
I
little bit
wish
of
now,
denial, a little bit of, yeah, self-protectiveness,
yes,
trying to
but
protect yourself.
but I
Yeah.
wish now that I had done them because I would have had a clear picture of what that descent and uh, how that showed in my body. Like I would have had a record that I could see, not just that my bones can see, or that my muscle fibers can see.
Yeah.
Um, and at where I stand now, looking back on it, I think it would have been an encouragement to me to say, I did that. I walked through that. And I did get worse before I got better. And
Mhm.
that's okay.
Yeah.
So that's if I could give any encouragement to do it differently than I did, it would be to do the assessments before and after each course, even if you're going to do multiple courses, or even if you are afraid you might not see um, linear positive progress, because life doesn't always have linear positive progress. It's not really a model of how humans work as biological creatures. Um,
Yes.
so I wish I had done that differently, but I didn't. So here I am.
Well, that's good. It's good insight, and it's vulnerable insight, and I think that that's I work a lot with people on goal setting. Even I'm a high school swim coach, and even just like getting the kids to set goals. Setting goals is really scary because you're saying out loud something you want, knowing that you might not get it, you know? Knowing that you might not get there. You might get close to it, but you might not get there, but it's still important to do, right? And it's very vulnerable. It's very vulnerable. So, it makes me think that maybe, even just in that encouraging people to do it, to just acknowledge some of that in that video, that this can be really hard. And it isn't I always tell people, like, a lot of people when they reach out, they're like, "Why don't you have before and after pictures on your website?"
No, don't do that. Please don't do that.
Never would do that. I would never do that because it is not just about how somebody looks. And somebody's after might be worse than somebody else's before, and we compare ourselves too much to body image, and it's not about that. So even that, I even tell people if they don't wanna take the picture or don't wanna do the physical measurement, that's fine, but still do the symptom measurement.
Yes. Mhm.
Still do the assessment of what you feel about yourself, what you're capable of doing, what you're not capable of doing. Do the functional emotional assessment. And if you because it's not about the pictures and it's not about the measurement to me. Um, it's about it's about your overall well-being and your
Mhm.
overall connection to your body and
Mhm.
what you're capable of that I
Mhm.
want you to see. So, I think that that's important.
Yeah.
Well, you already answered. I usually finish with the what would you do differently or what would you tell people, but you anticipated that question and you said it. Is there anything else you wanna share before we wrap up?
I wish every woman knew about your courses and the content that you share. I tell everybody about it, and I recommend you without hesitation, 5 stars, because it's been such a blessing for my life. And it's amazing how our bodies work. It's
Yeah,
amazing to learn about how I'm put together and what I'm for.
yeah.
Um, that was thoroughly enjoyable.
Yeah, it is. The body is freaking amazing.
Yes.
It is so amazing, and I think, having that perspective of not just beating ourselves into submission, but respecting and honoring what we're capable of, and when it's not working, being curious about it and seeing how we can help it work, instead of just being defeated and desperate, there is some desperation in it. When our body's not doing what it's supposed to do, we feel a little desperate,
Yes.
um, but there's hope, and
Yes.
there's a way to get better and feel better in all circumstances. So, I'm so glad that you found us and that you didn't give up and that you chose to experience this year, and have something positive to go along with it, and that you took the time to share your story because it's really valuable. So thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure.
All right. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. And we're going to have some information in our course notes about the courses that Rosemary took, so that you can learn more about how it works here at the Tummy Team. And we actually have memberships now so that you can do it in a membership model and you don't have the timeline. You can work at your own pace. And we're here to help you be strong for the life you were meant to live. So hopefully you'll join us again and learn more about how to do that. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye bye. Once again, thank you for joining us at the Tummy Team Journey. We would love to help you restore your core and be strong for the life you were meant to live. You can get more practical strategies at thetummyteam.com, and we'll see you next time.